Om Shri Sairam. We will start today's session with three Omkars. Om. Om. Om.
Loving Sairams and a wonderful evening to everyone on this auspicious Sunday evening. Belated Happy New Year to everyone. This is our first Samarpan session in this new calendar year today. And I've got a rare privilege to introduce to someone whom most of us, who are part of Sai family for many, many years would know him very well, would have heard him or would have seen his videos on YouTube, or would have even met him when you have been to Prashanthi Nilayam. But for those who probably wouldn't have known him or would have been joining the new, the Sai family in recent times, it's a rare privilege for me to introduce an icon, an inspiration for many, many generations of students at Prashanthi Nilayam. Let me take this privilege to introduce Sri Sanjay Sahni. Sri Sanjay Sahni originally hails from Delhi and has been at Bhagwan's lotus feet since last 4 decades. That's 40 years long. An alumnus of Sri Satyai Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Sri Sanjay Sahni belongs to the first batch of 5-year integrated program launched by Bhagwan's University in 1982. That means he finished both BCom and MCom, Bachelor's in Commerce and Master's in Commerce over a 5-year period, and passed out in 1987. He has a distinguished academic career, securing gold medals for both of his degrees, that is BCom and MCom, receiving the gold medal directly from Bhagwan's hands. Post completion of his studies, Bhagwan handpicked Sir to join as a faculty in the Department of Commerce at Prashanthi Nilayam in 1987, and which he moved on to Brindavan campus after 6 years at Prashanthi Nilayam in the year 1993. Sir held several senior positions at Bhagwan's University. Some of them include Warden of Sri Satyai Sai Hostel, Prashanthi Nilayam from 1990 to 1993, then Principal of Brindavan Campus in the year 2002, Director of Brindavan Campus in 2011, and now holds the position of Controller of Examinations at Bhagwan's University. Controller of Examinations is one of the top 4 administrative positions at Bhagwan's University, and which is a very, very, very special position which Bhagwan himself handpicks people to lead that position. Sir is also associated with the value education courses at university and has participated in a number of national and international workshops and conferences on value education in India, East Asia, Middle East, and Europe. Sir is a sought after speaker on Bhagwan's mission and his messages across the globe. To add a line of for today's session, given the turbulent times we are currently in since last 2 years, with first wave, then wave 2 with Delta, and the wave 3 now with Omicron, Sir actually has kindly consented to share some of Swami's important messages on how to deal with such turbulent, uncertain times that we see today. So let's welcome Sri Sanjay Sahni and request him to share some of those gems of wisdom from Bhagwan on how to deal with these times. Over to you, sir. Sai Ram.
Offering my loving pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet, I thank our Samarpan team for this invite to do Sai Smaran on this beautiful Sunday evening. And greetings from Prashanthi to all our participants in today's satsang, and also others who may see this in YouTube at a later point of time. I have very fond memories of my association with Mumbai Samarpan and my visit to Dharmakshetra, which was physical. Samarpan had just started, I think 5-6 years ago, if I remember right. And today's session is, of course, a little different. We are in a virtual environment, and keeping the environment in which all of us are placed in currently, I thought I will share some thoughts and my experiences and the insights from those experiences on the theme Sai messages for all of us in uncertain, turbulent, and challenging times. So with these few words, let me begin with the very first message that Swami gave humanity when he declared his avataric mission as a 14-year-old boy. Manasa bhajare guru charanam dustara bhavasagar taranam. The Guru who had come amidst us announced his presence and reminded us that this ocean of samsara is very, very difficult to cross, but catch hold of the feet of the Guru, worship the feet of the Guru, and this very difficult to cross samsara can be definitely crossed with his grace. So that was a 14-year-old boy giving a message to humanity. And over the decades of his life on earth, he proved every word that he sang in that renowned bhajan. In this context, I'm reminded of one day I was interacting with one of our senior professors in the university, and just like that, I asked her, Em Samachara. And she said, you're asking like Swami would ask. Then, of course, she had something uppermost in her mind, her problem, and it just poured out. But more beautiful was the insight she herself got. Remembering her problem, she remembered Swami and remembered the message that Swami had given. And this was when once Swami had called some of the Anandpur professors to his interview room in Prashantlim Mandir. And this is what Swami said. He said, see, you all have got into this samsara sagara. Occasionally you will keep drowning, but don't worry, I will keep bailing you out. So look at his supreme confidence. He is fully aware that having come into this world, we are going to get into jams individually, collectively, at different points of time. But also, he reminded us of his supreme confidence that he can bail us out, no matter how difficult the situation is. So these words of Bhagwan are a great assurance to all of us, and we should keep reminding ourselves that he is always there with us. So I thought I will take up today some messages that Swami has given us over the years and share some of my experiences which underline the veracity of that message, the import of that message, and how we can use his messages for our day-to-day challenges. So the first thing that I would like to quote is actually a message of Bhagwan. He says, you must have not only freedom from fear, but freedom from hope and expectation. Trust in my wisdom. I do not make mistakes. Love my uncertainty. for it is not a mistake. It is my intent and will. Remember, nothing happens without my will. Be still. Do not ask to understand. Do not want to understand. Relinquish the imperative that demands understanding. From Sanatan Sarthi, August 1984. So there is this one saying of Swami, very beautiful, which is my favorite and why I have noted down this message also in my diary. Love my uncertainty. Anybody who has lived with Bhagwan knows the meaning and the import of this statement. No two moments in his presence were alike. He was ever new and ever ancient. I recall at this juncture, it was the year 1985, the second year of our sports meet. I was studying at the university doing my third year undergraduation, and it was the prize distribution day of the institute. The director of the campus was out of station. Swami was visiting the campus, and the acting director, he called me aside. He said, you are the master of ceremonies for today's function. And he gave me the entire list of the prize winners and what I had to announce during the prize distribution ceremony. So the assignment was clear. In the meantime, even before Swami came, I started receiving instructions from the team of senior students who were associated with the prize distribution. And from that original list, certain changes were being made. And I kept a mental note of it, that these are to be kept in mind when the prizes are to be announced. So the D moment came, Swami arrived and he was received with Vedam, and the program started off. So the moment came when the prize distribution has to take place. So I took my file, I went to the podium, I left the file on the podium, never made that mistake again after that. But that day, I left the file on the podium, went to Swami and took Pad Namaskar. And when I got up after Pad Namaskar, to my utter horror, I found that our acting director had himself gone to the podium. He opened the file and he started reading out the names of the prize winners. I had no clue why he did that. So I just walked off the stage to the side aisle and the prize distribution commenced. And as expected, there was confusion. There was confusion because what was there printed was modified subsequently, and that had not been noted in the paper. For example, there was the staff sports three-legged race, and it was told to me orally that because there are multiple people winning the prize, so there's no second prize, there's no third prize, there's only first prize. So two people will get the first prize, so no second prize. But our professor, he announced of the second prize, there are no prizes behind. So I had to rush to the podium and I had to whisper into his ear. So he did not announce the third prize, at least some, saving grace was there. And then there was another announcement which had to be made, that there was a tug of war for the staff sports. And instead of all the professors coming and receiving the prize from Swami, the announcement that was supposed to be made was that Bhagwan will award the prize winners, and on behalf of the prize winners of the tug of war, the Vice Chancellor will receive the prize. So this was the announcement that's supposed to be made. And I do not know, the professor announced, and now the tug of war prize will be awarded by the vice chancellor. So it was chaos right in the presence of Swami, and the whole college auditorium, all the students are, because it was a private function, all the students are seated, teachers are seated, and everybody is an eyewitness. And Swami is continuously telling the professor, you give the chance to the boy to announce, but he was not willing to leave the podium. And the vice chancellor is also telling him, but he was not willing to do. In the meantime, on the other side, there was another confusion. It was the first time Swami had given senior students the responsibility of this organizing this prize function. So they had planned everything meticulously, and they were hoping that Swami will be very delighted. Till the prizes started being distributed. So there was this, currently he's our faculty, and he was, I think, the best sportsman of that year, and he won 7 prizes. So in the prizes which came from Swami, one of the prizes was thermos flasks. So our people had assigned, for the first prize, there will be a thermos flask. Now this fellow had got 7 first prizes. So the first time he came, Swami gave him the thermos flask. Second time when his name was called, Swami saw again the prize is thermos flask. So he said, is there anything else? And these boys who were looking after the prizes, they had to quickly think. When they said, Swami, yes, tumbler is there. Get the tumbler. So they brought the tumbler. Then third time when he came, again Swami asked, anything else? So what happened, what they had planned, and like this, it happened with so many other sportsmen and athletes. So who was getting what prize, which prize had to be given to whom? There was total chaos backstage, and whatever was coming in the hand was being handed over to Swami, and Swami was handing over to the sportsman. And it was, an unbelievable confusion, that second year sports meet prize distribution. That evening, I was sitting in the mandir. I didn't know what had hit me. I had no understanding of why it has happened. And in spite of my being told to do the Master of Ceremonies role, I was not in a position to actually discharge because somebody else was doing it. So that evening, Swami finished his darshan on the gent side, and he came up the slope of the mandir from the back side. And there he saw me seated, and he accosted me. What happened today? You took Pad Namaskar and you did not announce the prizes. So I had no clue. I didn't know what to tell Swami. I just kept mum. And, that kind of memory is so vivid in my mind that it was such an acute confusion, and everybody was aware that there was this confusion. But when I look back and I interacted with some others who were prize winners and who got the prizes, then I discovered that ultimately what happened was what Swami wanted, not what X wanted or what Y wanted. For example, after the whole prize distribution was over, somebody told Swami, this 3-legged race, this third prize was not given. So Swami said, is it so? So Swami sent somebody with the prizes to the house of that individual, and it was delivered to the prize winners in the home. So you can imagine the ecstasy of that recipient of the prize. And he said, see, look at it. These people, we won the prize and they did not give us the prize, and Swami remembered us and Swami gave us the prize, So you can imagine the delight of those people, that in spite of the folly of man, divine intervention saw to it that they got their blessing. Little did they realize, and I didn't have the heart of telling them that, sir, actually in the first place, you're not supposed to get the second and third prize at all. But, the joy that they exuded on receiving the prize from Swami directly at the doorstep was so immense that I didn't want to break their heart. So why I'm saying is, when Swami says, love my uncertainty, even when he was physically around, we had so much of such uncertain moments with him, and we could never be sure what's going to happen at the next moment. But for having accepted, see, the key message of Swami is, love my uncertainty. And because of that total surrender to Swami, this is your will, and whatever had to happen has happened. For that unconditional acceptance and surrender of that will of Swami, that I was deputed to play the role of the master of ceremonies, and yet I did not play that role, or was not allowed to play that role. For the next 30 years, Swami blessed me with the opportunity of being the master of ceremonies for our institute prize distribution. Except for a year or 2 years, maybe it would have got missed. But otherwise, for 30 years, I mean, that is, when I look back, that is such an immense blessing that Swami conferred. I mean, anybody could have done it. And 30 years is a very, very long period of time. But Swami conferred that blessing. And the only reason I can attribute it is that for that unconditional acceptance and surrender to his will, though it appeared from a worldly perspective, it was so embarrassing, it was so confusing, it was chaotic, but those things didn't matter to Swami, because when he wants, he is a master, and he is the master of masters. And so when he wants to give you a test, he wants to give you a training, then he is totally under his control. So this was one very beautiful memory that I carry from my student days. Another experience that I would like to share, and this happened when I was at Vrindavan, and this was in 2000. That year, Swami did not go to Kodaikanal. And one day, it was, I think, after Vishu celebrations and Tamil New Year celebrations had taken place. It was, I think, the 18th of April. Suddenly, we got a message. I got a message. One of our teacher brothers came and said that tomorrow Swami is going to Nagarhole National Park. And you are one of the members of the group who will be accompanying Swami. But you're not supposed to talk to anybody, tell anybody. It's top secret. So please keep all this to yourself. And tomorrow morning, 5 o'clock, you are expected to be in the mandir. So because of that instruction, I couldn't even ask anybody else, could not even tell that by chance if I am late, or because early morning you have to get up. So can you just alert me? Or you're not supposed to tell anything to anybody. That was the instruction. So knowing Swami, I said, if he is set 5 o'clock, I should be there in the mandir by 4:30, and which means I should get up in the morning, 4 o'clock. So I put my alarm clock for 4 o'clock. And horror of horrors, that day, the alarm clock did not ring. And when I woke up, it was 4:30 in the morning. Can you imagine? 5 o'clock, we are supposed to leave, and 4:30 in the morning, I have just woken up, not had bath, not had gone through all the morning ablutions. So I woke up with a shock, but in 15 minutes flat, I mean, I think it is the fastest morning ablutions I've ever done in my life to date. In 15 minutes flat, I had completed everything, including bath, and I was at the hostel entrance, Vrindavan hostel entrance, hoping to rush to the mandir. And then came the shock that Swami has already left, and the entire group has already left for Nagarhole. Can you imagine, the mindset of a person who is supposed to be part of Swami's group, and he has got left behind. Then I didn't know what to do. Suddenly, some devotee who was also a Sevadal volunteer, he came and said, "Sir, are you supposed to accompany Swami?" I said, "Yes." "Sir, there is this car which is not yet left. You can join that car. You can go in that car." I said, "My God, what a blessing that, the whole group has left, the whole entourage has left, and one car is left behind." So I jumped into the car. And when we reached the Vrindavan ashram gates, at that point, there was this research scholar who just entered, and he was also looking very vexed. So I stopped the car and I put the window down, panes down, and I asked him, "Are you also supposed to go with Swami?" He said, "Yes, yes, I was supposed to go." I said, "Come in." So I took him into the car. So we were two of us who were left behind, and we were in the car. And he was explaining how what had happened that day morning. Swami got up so early. At 3 o'clock, he started telling in Trai Mandir, "Has everybody come? Have people arrived?" And the teacher who was supposed to be instructing everybody, nobody was around except him and maybe one more teacher. So he was totally horrified, and he got full prasadam of Swami that he has not been able to get everybody there. And I remember the principal of the Prashantam campus was staying in the college guest house, which was on the other side of our college auditorium. So somebody took a scooter and rushed there. And "Sir, Swami is calling," and he hopped into the scooter, and he somehow made it in time. So there was these research scholars in the ashram apartments, in the Sai Gokulam apartments. So when the message came, they also were not ready. They just left everything and just rushed out. And this boy was in the bathroom. And when he came out, he didn't know. He was searching where they had left the lock. So he was searching for the lock. It took time. And by the time he reached, Swami is already left. So we reached the Hope Farm Junction. And at that point, the road takes a break. You either turn towards ITPL or you turn towards Whitefield. So the driver asked us, "Sir, which direction should I go?" How do we know? We are, 15 minutes behind schedule. How do we know which route Swami has taken? I said, "You drive straight." And he was speeding. We realized that Swami must have taken the ITPL route, and he was far away towards Nagarhole, and so we missed that. I said, "Okay, outskirts of Bangalore, we'll try to catch up," because the road from Bangalore, the Mysore road, that is common. So suddenly, in the middle, when we were still in Bangalore city, the driver tells, "Sir, are you hungry? Would you like to eat something? The whole breakfast of the group is in our car," he said. Imagine, the whole breakfast was loaded into our car. We have got left behind, and everybody else is ahead. So what if Swami asks for breakfast and the breakfast is not available? So we were already so tense. We said, "Oh, we don't want to eat now. We'll think about it later." So we crossed Bangalore, and we were now on the Mysore road. And then I told the driver, "Now you halt," because we had gone. So normally Swami drives at a much slower pace. So we said, "We'll halt for some time and let's see what happens." And sure enough, after 10 minutes or so, suddenly there is commotion on the road, and we discover that Swami's car is passing. And we are hiding behind the back seat of the car. We don't want to show our face. Don't want Swami to know that of course, everything he knows, but we didn't want to show our face. We were hiding there. And after Swami's car passed, then our teachers were coming in the car behind. And then we saw them, and we waved from the car to them, and they waved. And you can imagine what a reunion of hearts. Reunion of hearts, because they were so tense. How do they face Swami tomorrow when they halt? And Swami were to ask, "Where is this fellow?" and we are not around, it would be, a firing time for all of them. So the kind of rejoicing we had when we saw each other is something out of the world. Then we reached some company guest house. Swami halted there, and all the breakfast packets were taken out from the dicky of our car, and it was distributed. Then everybody had breakfast, and after breakfast was over, then Swami called us into his own bedroom. And that is the time where he said, see, I wanted you all to see the animals. He was taking us to the national park. He wanted us to see the animals, and they come out early in the morning. I thought you will be all ready, but you all have delayed it. Now, how will you see the animals? They will not be visible. But anyway, the tension that we had, at least I had experienced, of having missed out completely was over. And then we reached the national park. Then Swami accompanied us, and we went around the national park and saw a few animals here and there. And when we came back the next day, Swami asked me to speak in Thrai, but I was conspicuously silent about our visit to Nagarhole. So one teacher asked later, why didn't you not speak about our visit to Nagarhole? I said, your experience is different. My experience is very, very unique, because I got left behind, and then how I came and joined. Oh, good. You didn't tell. That would have been a very, very, what should I say, embarrassing in Swami's presence. But that memory remains with me, how, you got left behind, and then Swami left a car behind, and that the thought that even though he left a car behind for a couple of hours, is something which is greatly reassuring. And I have always told myself that if ever it happens that Swami goes ahead, we always thought that we are walking this journey with sight. If ever he goes ahead and you get left behind for some reason, there will be some way in which Swami will ensure that you are also taken care of. And that is one of my life's most important assurances from that experience and that insight, that no matter what happens, even if you were a laggard and you got left behind, God will have some arrangement for you, for that each one of you and the last one of you also in his plan, because nobody is outside his scheme of things. So why I'm saying is that we went through so many such uncertain moments with Swami, and he took us through all this only to give us that kind of an experience that we should learn to trust him and trust his wisdom and trust that his presence with us is always going to be there, and we need not have to worry about anything and everything that we face in our day-to-day life. So that is something which has remained with me, and that is why I like to underline that word, that love my uncertainty. You must learn to love his uncertainty, and he does not make a mistake. Everything that is happening is with his will, and if you surrender to that will, everything in good time will fall in place. So I recall at this juncture, for example, a young devotee, he had got a wonderful opportunity of getting promoted in his company. He was supposed to be deputed to the United States, and he went with his appointment order to Swami, and Swami saw his appointment order, and he got so furious, and he threw that paper on his face. And imagine what a dashing of hopes for that individual, what a career opportunity he has lost. But then shortly thereafter, he understood the value of that so-called wrath of Swami, because his company had their office in this World Trade Center in United States. And there was this terrorist attack where the aeroplane went and crashed into the building, and it was the very floor on which his company was having their office. If he had got promoted and he had gone there, he would have died in that crash of that building and that terrorist attack. So by crashing his so-called career prospects, Swami saved him. And today he is a very, very active member in the Sai mission. So some things we do not understand at that point of time, why it is happening. You can connect the dots only when you look back. So this is the first, second important message I would like to leave with all of you, that we need to love his uncertainty and be assured that he is in command and he is at the driving seat, and nothing untoward can ever happen when he is the driver and the charioteer of your life. Another very important message which Swami would often tell us is life is a game played. See, his sayings are very, very simple, very cryptic, but profound. And life is a game. Now, when you play a game, usually when we take any situation in life, we say, in everything we should succeed. In everything, whatever is our expectation or whatever others are expecting from us, it should materialize. But life is not like that. All situations are not meant that you alone will win and you alone will succeed and nobody else ever will succeed. There will be a day when, say, the Indian cricket team will win, and there will be another day when, say, South Africa will win. So that is what is all about the game. And you don't lose your heart, because next day you have another game. You have another opportunity to play the game. So Swami's focus in this message is play the game. There was a beautiful message once, one of the speakers in the Atirudra Mahayagnam we had in Vrindavan some years ago, he shared with all the gathering there. And many a time I quoted to our students also. He said, don't take life seriously. See, when we take life seriously, any setback which takes place, anything which has not gone as per our plan, anything which doesn't go in accordance with our expectation, we become heartbroken. But at the same time, he gave another caution. Don't take life seriously, but take it sincerely. So just because you don't take it serious doesn't mean that you have a happy-go-lucky attitude to work and to situations at home or to your duties in the office or wherever you are. Whatever is given to you, whatever is your expected duty, discharge it sincerely. And this is something which I have found very, very valuable. I remember when 1997, the cricket match took place, India 11 versus World 11 at Prashantilayam. We had Sachin Tendulkar, captain of the Indian cricket team, and Arjuna Ranatunga, captain. He was the world champion, winning captain at that point of time. He was leading the world team. And Swami entrusted the responsibility of organizing the cricket match to the university. So students and teachers and all of us got involved in associating ourselves in the preparations, including the final day. So my duty on the final day of the match was to look after the logistics of the food for both the cricket players as well as the dignitaries on the dais in the stadium, as well as the Prime Minister, Mr. I.K. Gujral. He was visiting. He was the chief guest for the occasion, and his lunch had to be organized before he left Prashantilayam. So I was given that responsibility, and everything that could go wrong went wrong that day. And I was given a vehicle, and he said, so-and-so is your driver. And I got up in the morning and I met the driver, and he said, "Sir, here is the key of the Jeep. I've been assigned for some other duty. So sorry, I'm not available for driving the Jeep." Imagine, on the day the Prime Minister is visiting Prashantlim, can there be a greater VVIP at that point of time? But the driver who is supposed to or entrusted with the responsibility of taking care of the food distribution for him, he is not available. So then I caught hold of an alumnus. He helped me, and we somehow delivered the breakfast to the Sai Srinivas guest house where the Prime Minister was to have his breakfast. And then after that, I returned to the mandir at the Shanti Bhavan and asked my teacher brother, "Where is our vehicle to take the food to the cricket pavilion?" And he said, there was some shortage of vehicles, so that vehicle has already been dispatched to the stadium. I said, "Dispatched to the stadium, but I don't have any other vehicle." So I walked all the way to the stadium, and then I reached the primary school back entrance. And there was this police security. They said, "Sorry, sir, Prime Minister has entered the stadium and you cannot enter." I said, "Please, if you do not allow me to enter, the Prime Minister will not have his lunch today." He said, "Sorry, sir." And there were so many people, milling around me. They also want to enter. And the security was having a very, very tough time. And I did something which was unthinkable for me and with my temperament. I gave one big push to the gate, and the gate opened a little, and I wriggled myself into the stadium through that. The security was trying to close the gate so that other people don't enter, so somehow I entered. I reached the Shanti Vedika of the stadium, and there I find my vehicle parked there. I said, "Wow!" But to my utter horror, I find that the driver is missing. Where is the driver? He is sitting in the stadium watching the cricket match. How among those thousands of people can I find my driver? And then I mentioned it to some of our teachers who were in the cricket pavilion, and they said, Sir, don't worry, we'll give you some other vehicles." So with those other vehicles, we went, we brought, because they could not sort of take all the food in one go. And to cut the long story short, everything that had to go wrong went wrong that day. So I was sitting in the mandir, the dignitaries left, the players left, and I was sitting and all of us were seated there. And then Swami came out and he told the warden, he said, "Students and teachers have done very good work. I'm very happy with their work." So this is something which I heard. Then he came to where the teachers were sitting and he asked, I was still in that, sad, depressed, "Swami, we have let you down so badly." And then Swami asked, "Who all did work today?" And all of us, chorused, "Swami, we all worked today." And we worked together. And Swami gave such a beautiful smile. And seeing that smile, all my sadness, all my depression, all that heaviness of heart just vanished in a trice. And I realized that what was meant for me that day was that lesson, that even if all things go wrong, if I am happy, are you not happy? Yes, Swami, I am happy. So he was happy because if I look at what I did my best. I could not have done anything more, and it was not possible for any human to have done anything more. It was beyond my known capacities, and I had done it. And for Swami, that was enough. And that was his test. So in life, it's not that every situation is going to result in our expectations being fulfilled. More important is how you played the game. That is very, very important. And Swami was a great patron of sport. In this context, just a small aside I will share how he used to encourage students, because it is related to some Mumbai boys also. The college in Vrindavan had just started, way back in 69. And there were some of these Bombay boys with great fascination for playing cricket. And Vrindavan didn't have a cricket ground. So they went and asked Swami, "Swami, we want a cricket ground." And Swami said, yes, I know your principal is an old man. He is not very particular about all this. I will get a cricket ground made for you. So he called this devotee who personally shared his experience with all of us in a moral class in the campus. He and another devotee were given the responsibility for getting the cricket ground ready. So the Vrindavan cricket ground was now ready. And then the boys prayed to Swami, Swami, we want you to come for the inauguration. So Swami obliged, he came for the inauguration. And now that Swami has arrived, the students are not willing to keep quiet. So what should be done? So they said, we'll play a match, we'll play a game. And they prayed Swami, Swami, please inaugurate this cricket pitch and ground by being the first bowler. And then Swami said, now he tried to wriggle out. Swami knew what he was in for. He said, no, I cannot do this overarm bowling that you all do. And the boys also not willing to lose the opportunity. They said, no, Swami, even if you can't do overarm bowling, you can do underarm bowling, Swami. That is enough. And somehow they persuaded Swami. And this is what the devotee said. He was an eyewitness to it. He said, can you believe it? In 6 balls, Swami took 6 wickets. And especially there was this one ball which was very, very memorable. It was as if the ball Swami had not even thrown the ball or bowled it. It just slipped out of his hand. So how, it will be just limping on the pitch and going towards the batsman. And the batsman, seeing that almost like a dead ball coming towards him, he got so excited. He went right down to the middle of the pitch and he wanted to hit it out. And just when his bat neared the ball did a semicircle. And the next thing this batsman found that the ball is behind him and moving towards the wicket and went and hit the wicket. So this is how Vrindavan cricket ground got inaugurated. Then the boy said, Swami, you must also bat. He said, no, I don't know how to bat. And Swami, please. So again he obliged, and then again this devotee was sharing how one boy bowled and Swami couldn't connect the bat with the ball. Instead of the main face of the bat hitting the ball hit the handle of the bat. And the impact of hitting the handle was it bounced off with such force from the handle, it went round the boundary and became a 6. So that is how the Vrindavan cricket ground got inaugurated. This is just an aside, but just to say that, Swami is a great player and great patron of sport. The university sports meet is a testimony of how much encouragement and support he gave to students. But the spirit in which he wanted us to play is very important. Life is a game, he says. Play it sincerely. Play it by the rules. Keeping him always in your thoughts, keeping him always in your prayers. See, that is how this game of life has to be played. And this is another very important lesson which we need to keep in mind when we face our day-to-day challenges. Do your duty sincerely. And in this context, I would like to share that it's a corollary to this, but another very great spiritual principle. Later on, I experienced it first, and then later on, I was reading one of the later books of Mr. Howard Murfitt, the author of the famous book, Man of Miracles. And then I realized that how it is a great teaching in the spiritual lore. And this is also very important, especially when the going gets tough and everything is very, very uncertain around you. This is very, very important teaching of Sai. And the principle is live in the moment. Live in the moment. See, if you look at Swami's personality, look at his day-to-day interactions, he was always living in the moment. Supposing he is talking to an individual in darshan line, at that moment, for him, only that individual exists and nobody else exists anywhere in the darshan hall. And that is what that person will experience. And he will feel also. So he was so focused on the task at hand, and that is how why he was able to achieve such mammoth level projects, whether it was the super speciality or it was the water project. There were so many challenges. I don't want to go into all the details of how he executed those projects, but he lived every moment. And he didn't have to generally see people like us. We have this trait, and Swami would often sort of contrast the elders and the youngsters. He said the youngsters are all the time thinking about the future and worried about the future, whereas the elders are all the time brooding about the past. This should have happened, it didn't happen, and all that kind of thing. But Swami says the given moment is now, and you must give importance to the present moment. It has the seed of the future as well as the fruit of the past. So that is what we usually miss. So living in the moment, and this insight came to me very, very powerfully. It was sometime towards the end of the first decade of the new millennium, and I was the principal of the campus at Vrindavan, and suddenly in the middle of the semester, we had a gap, a faculty gap. Somebody retired, and we thought that maybe that person will be continuing, but it didn't materialize. And so sometime in the second month of the semester, we had a glaring gap of 3 papers which have to be redistributed to other faculty in the department, and the others were already overloaded. So for 2 papers, somehow we made some alternate arrangement with outsiders, but 1 paper was begging and the teachers requested. So I accepted, and I ended up taking 16 hours a week. And that was a very, very difficult time for me. When I was not having administrative responsibility, discharging that kind of a teaching workload was very, very easy. But with the administrative work and every person in the campus, whether it's a student or a parent or a staff, a teaching staff, non-teaching staff, outsiders, all of them coming to you for so many things, it was a very, very challenging time. And this was a subject I had not taught in my teaching career till that point of time. And when I took up that subject, usually, when we start teaching a subject, we are a little slow. So by the time it came to me, the number of hours exhausted were more and the topics covered were less. So I was staring at this scenario where students have already done, say 40% of the course. You don't know one thing about it. So they know more than you, number one. Number two, that there are less hours, and will I ever be able to complete the course in time? So it was very, very challenging for me. And one of the things which was a very beautiful daily schedule I had was when the students morning, they would go for jogging and their games. I would go for a morning walk for about 1 hour. And I said that unless I sacrifice my morning walk, I don't think I'll be able to do this. So for the next 2 months, 2.5 months, I would take that time and I would make notes for the students because they should not suffer. That was the prime concern that I had. And I made all those notes and distributed to the students. Somehow they completed their exam and came out successful also. And shortly thereafter, I think it was the month of November, Swami returned from Hachi and Bombay. That was the time when he visited there, and we had this faculty development workshop. And so all of us were called to the Yajur Mandir, and we were all seated there. And suddenly when we were seated there, I was called along with the principal of the Prashantlian campus, and we were given 2 trays. And in one tray were the badges, and the other tray was the notebooks and pens. So we were said that when Swami comes, kindly get this blessed by Swami. So we were waiting there, and then Swami came, and along with the Parthi principal, I also got up and I offered the tray to Swami, and suddenly Swami waved his hand, and out of the blue, totally unexpected, there came this green ring, and he put it into my finger. And it was, I couldn't put two and two together till a student told me, he said, sir, for all the notes you sat and wrote, Swami has put this finger into your, I will put this ring into your hand. So this is the reward he has given you. So what I mean to say is it was a very challenging time. And who is given this challenge? Swami himself is given the challenge. He has created that situation. But at a time when nobody else was willing to take up that kind of responsibility, I pitched in with having all the other responsibilities, knowing fully well that it will be very, very difficult for me. But I said that if Swami wants it, see, with Swami, we should be always ready and always available. See, with God, he doesn't look at your capacity, he does not look at your competency. All that he says is, can you do it? Will you do it for me? And if you are available to him, his delight, his joy is something out of the world. So when the students shared that, then it struck me that for the last 2.5 months that I had been slogging Swami in his own way. Now, he didn't say anything. In his own way, he sort of blessed and gave an appreciation for the invisible efforts that I had made, unknown to everybody. And for years later, till I think the legislation got changed, years later, I found those notes were still circulating among batches after students. So, so it was not as if just it was for that particular batch. It was useful for so many batches to follow even after that. So the point that I'm saying is the only way I was able to survive that particular period was not to worry about whether I couldn't do it, not to worry about the future, not to be worried about the past or so much time has gone and, we have lost time or will I be able to complete it? All the time focused on the work. And that is it's a very important life skill in the spiritual domain to live in that moment. If you can, especially when tough time comes, don't worry about the future. Don't worry about the past. Just focus on the task at hand and do the best that is possible in your capacity. And that's enough for Swami. And even if the whole world does not appreciate your work, there is the Lord of the universe who knows how sincerely you have worked. And that's enough. That's enough. Saint Francis of Assisi said, a man is worth no more than he is worth in the eyes of God. So if in God's eyes, he knows all the challenges that you have gone through and you did your best. So living in the moment is a very, very important principle, which I would like to recommend. And then only later on, I realized that in the spiritual life, this is a very important principle which we need to practice in day-to-day life. So this is another thought I will share with all of you. Then coming to two aspects of an avatar. We are all familiar with it, but I thought the discussion will not be complete unless I reiterate. We are all aware of it. See, there are 16 characteristics by which every avatar is identified, and the last two are very, very significant. One is called Nama, the other is called Rupa. So wherever his name is there, he is there. Wherever his form is there, he is there. Never doubt that. So I would like to share some of my experiences in this regard. First with the name. And this was a time when I was visiting Singapore a few years ago, and they were launching their Samarpan, first Samarpan, and they had requested the university to send me, and the university had given their consent. But my trip was only for 2 days. And there was a summer course going on in Vrindavan, and they had also requested. So I tried to sort of cut my travel time and being out of station for too long. So for the first time, I had never traveled like that. I was going east. So maybe my flight from Bangalore was around 10:30 in the night. and it was about 4.5 hours travel by flight. But we landed at 6:30 in Singapore, and it's broad daylight. So one, you have been traveling in the plane. Second is you have not had your full night's sleep, so it was very, very, exhausting. And that evening, I'm supposed to give a talk to devotees. And everybody is, our first Samarpan, and somebody is coming from Prashant Nilayam. And, you can imagine the expectations. And here am I, totally exhausted, not knowing what I'm going to speak. They had also planned some activity in the afternoon. We were supposed to go out of the blue. My host asked, said, would you like to stay back at home rather than go there? Yes, I would prefer that. And somehow I convinced them not to go ahead. But even there, I just got maybe 1 hour, 1.5 hours maximum rest. And it was 4:15 when we left the host's house for the Sai Center. So we got into this car, and my host was driving the car, and his young son in the second standard was in the back seat. So the father asked his son, why don't you sing some bhajans? So that fellow, though he was in the second standard, had a very melodious voice, and obviously his mother or his Balvikas guru, whoever, had trained him well. And for the next 20 minutes that we reached the Sai Center, he was singing the bhajans, and we were with full-throated voices singing the chorus. And 20 minutes later, we land up in the Sai Center, and the moment we reach there, the proceedings commence. And then I was introduced, I completed my talk. Well, later on, I was looking at the timing of the talk. To my utter amazement, I found that I had spoken for 2 hours. Somebody who's totally exhausted, who is mentally exhausted, physically exhausted, not had his full quota of sleep. Was it possible? It is not possible. But it became possible because of that 20 minutes of bhajan. And that also was such a striking thing for me. Swami, only you knew what was my problem, and only you knew what would be the remedy for it. And look at him, he used a second standard student to give me what I needed. That is Swami, And also I recognize two things. One, the power of his name, the energy of his name. The moment you sing his name, the kind of energy you get to do the work at hand. So, Dil mein Ram, Haath mein Kaam. This should be a mantra for life. And the second thing which struck me from that whole episode was that Swami, even a second standard student can be your instrument. It doesn't matter qualification. That's why I said qualification is not required. Competency is not required. Are you available for him? Can you do something for him? And he made that boy. And only I know personally how I benefited. Another small experience in this context. One day it was our examination work, and one of my staff, it was the last some evaluation report which had not come in, and our staff reported, sir, we are trying to contact the examiner by phone, by email, but there's no response, and there is delay taking place. So I just got a brainwave. I said, hey, that name seems familiar. It seems to be the consort of some deity. Whose consort's name is that? And then somebody immediately mentioned, sir, it is Lord Subramania's consort's name, the name of the examiner. Hey, Subramania, every day I go to his mandir, every day I offer my obeisance to him. And, our Subramaniam bhajan, which Swami used to sing, Subramaniam, Sharmaganada, Subramaniam, loudly in my office. I started singing, and I don't know what my people thought about me, but, some of my idiosyncrasies, and they also have got used to now. So I sang that and completed the bhajan, and I came and sat on my desk. And within half an hour, can you believe it? I find that last examiner's evaluation report, is on my table. I just finished the bhajan, and that was so startling for me. See, imagine the name. I had just taken the name of the Lord, right? Subramanya. Now, I just prayed to Subramanya, please tell your consort that to do the needful. And, there is this examiner with the name of your consort, and let her tell this examiner to do the needful. So this was just my thought. And that vibration of taking the Subramanya name has gone and touched the vibration of his consort's name, has gone and touched that individual who is bearing that name, and that person has opened the computer. And that composed, I don't know to what extent the evaluation was over or not over, what stage it was. That person has entered the data into the computer, sent an email, it has reached my office, they have downloaded it, they have printed it and put it on my table. And all this has happened in just half an hour. Can you imagine the power of God's name? I'm just sharing. So no matter how things may be difficult, take his name, and the energy that will come just by reminiscing his name, that is something which, same thing is with this form. So you have a photograph in your home, you have a statue in the temple, or just go and, talk to, just as you talk to each other, talk to him and talk to the deity. And how will he listen? Will he act? How will he respond? That is not our problem. That is his problem. Our problem is to tell whatever we have in our mind to him. How he's going to respond, how he's going to do the needful is his lookout. So the name and the form, these are two very, very important colors of the 16 colors of an avatar. And we should recognize the importance of these two colors and use that name, use that form, not only for our mundane things, but also for our spiritual progress. And last and fourth, I will, before we open up for our Q&A session, Swami's once statement, serve that you may be saved. One important way in which you can connect with the Lord, you can reach out to the Lord, is by doing seva with love. And Swami has said, serve that you may be saved. So we do not know when, what we will require, what need will arise at what occasion. So from that point of view, our Sai organization has provided so many. 2 days ago, I was talking to a Sevadal from Bangalore, and he was sharing that for the first time in the pandemic, he took up this assignment of going to a super specialty hospital in Bangalore to do the seva. So he reached the canteen, and from the canteen, he was supposed to go to the ICU. So when he came out, that whole area was so dark, he felt a little worried with the kind of pitch darkness that was there. And suddenly he looked up into the sky, and it happened to be a Purnima day. And in the sky, in the moon, can you believe it? This is his eyewitness account which he shared with me. He saw Swami's face in the moon. And that gave him such a great assurance. Oh, Swami, even though it is so dark, I mean, you are there, and Swami can make his presence felt in so many ways. I remember almost, this was sometime almost 1.5 years ago, again near the super specialty Bangalore. One day, they also were doing this food distribution, which was taking place in so many parts of the country. Our Sai organization, devotees had taken it up. And so in the hospital also, they were doing this seva. And it so happened that one day they distributed all the packets, and one more consignment came. So now that the food is already made, so it has to be distributed. So they took that, and second time they went out for distribution. And when they went, they saw this migrant, one Muslim gentleman, migrant laborer, and they gave the food. The next day, this migrant laborer comes into the hospital, comes into the central area, and for the first time he sees there the photograph of Swami. And then he starts making inquiries, and this conversation takes place. And the migrant laborer was explaining how that, he had not eaten food for 3 days. And he was literally starving. And at that juncture, with this second round of food packets, our people had gone for food distribution, and that's how he got the food. That night, Swami comes, he doesn't know anything about Swami. Swami appears in the dream of this migrant laborer and tells him that I sent my people with food. Did you receive the food? And this is the dream he had. So he said, oh, this man must be this, because these people came from the building. So he thought this building belongs to and then only he came to know that this is Swami, and this is, of course, he's physically not there with us anymore. But you can imagine the ecstasy of the Seva group, volunteers, oh, for so many days we are doing the Seva, and Swami has acknowledged the Seva, and Swami has told this migrant laborer that he sent us. So you can imagine the joy of the Seva volunteers. So I remember many years ago, in those days, this prasadam distribution in the mandir used to take place, and the sweets, prasadam vessels used to come out from the interview room. So our boys will distribute prasadam in the mandir, and then they will take those empty vessels and put it back in the interview room. So our boys were smart. Sometimes when they would go in, they would not come out. The reason is that they want to spend some time with Swami. After Swami comes in, then they wanted to catch him. So once or twice, Swami saw that they cornered him inside the interview room. So he also became smart, alert. So he would be very carefully watching, and the moment he reaches the interview room, and he would see them inside. He said, hey, come out outside. Swami, please come in. And they would sort of be negotiating. Swami said, if you don't come out, I'm not coming in. So the boys had no chance. They had to come out. Then the boys went one step forward. So instead of being visible from outside, they started hiding behind the interview room door. Of course, Swami knows everything. So Swami, that day, he went in, and when he is closing the interview room door, these fellows are hiding behind. Hey, what are you doing? Swami, please talk to us. So Swami closed the door. He went and sat on his chair, and they all surrounded Swami. And then Swami asked this question: why do I give you this chance to do prasadam distribution? Swami gave the prasadam, we distributed. Why is Swami giving us this chance? We don't know. Then Swami said, see, in life, always it is not going to be like this bed of roses. You're so comfortable now. I've taken care of everything. Your parents have taken care of you. Life is not going to be a bed of roses. It will be having its own ups and downs. For every individual, it will be like that. And there will be troughs in your life as well. And when those moments of difficulty come, at that point of time, you will need a lot of my grace. And when those moments come, when you need my grace, I will remember all these little acts of seva you have done for me, and I will shower my grace on you. What a benevolent Lord. Simply if you ask any student, hey, you did prasadam distribution during your student days? Yes, we did. And if you tell him this was the reason why Swami gave you the chance, no, they will be definitely, but these are Swami's own words to that small group of students who were there with him that day. So Swami's, and this is true for all seva that you do. All work that you, good work that you do selflessly, without expectation of anything in return, all that is God's work. All good work is God's work. And God, whether anybody recognizes it or not, definitely there is an eye above who is not sleeping, who is watching. and will shower His mercy and grace on all of us. So serve that you may be saved. Serve with love. Serve with the name of Sai in your heart. And definitely, not that you should keep, oh, if I do this, then so it's not, Swami would say, see, how should you serve? Serve as family members were to serve in your own home. When you volunteer to help in your kitchen, your spouse or your mother, you're not going to ask, oh, I've done so many hours of service, so this is the salary, this is the wages I want. That is the maid servant will ask like that. You are the family member. You saw a need, you pitched in, and you did the needful. So with that kind of bhavam, that this beautiful planet of Earth is God's home, and He has created each one of us. And whenever, to whatever capacity, it's not that materially we have to help every time. It could be just somebody who is needing some words of confidence, some words of solace, and you do that at the right time, and that's enough. So, whatever is possible, do it, and there are unlimited opportunities in this beautiful planet. And the purpose of the avatar is actually to celebrate the marriage of heaven and earth. It is not to take us to heaven, not to bring heaven to earth, but to make this earth itself a heavenly place. And when will that become? When each one lives for the other and all live for God. This is the motto of the Sri Sathya Sai hostels in the Sathya Sai educational institutions. And if we imbibe that bhavam, this world is definitely going to be a wonderful place for the whole of humanity. So with these few words, I close here and now open to any questions.
Thank you very much, sir. I think it was so absorbing talk, and it was just every message was coming out in a very beautiful sequence and actually reverberating in our lives. I think just to summarize few of them, just so that there is a key takeaway for all of us, at home. I think love my uncertainty. I think all of us are in a currently uncertain times, and it only reiterates the point that Swami is in control because he loves uncertainty. So we are in the midst of uncertainty. That means Bhagavan is always with us. That's an immediate thought, at least I could get when you said about love my uncertainty on a couple of occasions. From there, we obviously have life is a game played. And every time we have ups and downs, be it office, be it family, be it relatives, how do we duck the ball? How do we leave the ball, which is off swinging? I mean, just going by the cricket corollary and the example that you gave. And if I may be allowed to say this, if Bhagwan is part of our team and is captaining the team, I think rest assured the victory is ours. And the way you said about the 6-ball wicket, I think you have such a player in your team, there is no way that we are going to lose the game of life. So I think it is a very beautiful message. All of us knew this, but I think the way you explained and the way the experiences were narrated, I think it has imprinted in our heart. And there comes another one, which was quite startling, is, living in the moment. I think it's a very critical aspect, as you mentioned several times while narrating the experience, because most of us obviously are worried about the future. What will happen if Omicron doesn't go away? What will happen if it goes third or fourth variant comes? I think, as Swami always has said, worry is about imagination of fear that will happen in future. But when you live in the present, there is no fear, there is no worry. So living in the moment, and with Captain Swami in our team, I think it is no way that we are going to have any challenges, so-called challenges, which the world says, but we'll be able to sail through very, very, very comfortably. And name and the form, I think it just covers the entire concept so beautifully. Because right now, when we don't have a physical form of Swami with us, but we do have some of his beautiful videos, I think the only avatar among so many who has left visual, form with us today. And we can sing his bhajans, we can listen to the music, we can look at his form, listen to his discourses. So there is still a wonderful continuity that we experience even today, though it is 10 years of Mahasamadhi. And but you never know, as you said, You never know when, in what form Bhagwan will appear in our life. Just the way, as you said, a second standard student can, be used as an instrument. You never know when Bhagwan will come in which form and give us that boost of energy to take the mission forward. And the last piece, I think probably there are many more, beautiful examples and the messages that you shared. But the last piece, which will, I think, definitely remain etched in a memory, and probably all of us need to ruminate, is the being available in the divine mission. I think that's the most critical aspect, because once we are available, then we allow ourselves to be his flute, the hollow flute. Through him, through us, then we are used as his instrument to drive the divine mission. I think being available is the greatest message and probably the greatest gift that Bhagwan has given us. And rest definitely is he has to take care and run the show through us. So I think it was a brilliant session. Again, a textbook session where we have to go and look at each of the chapters that you narrated one after another and absorb the beautiful learnings that you shared with us. Heartfelt gratitude to our beloved Bhagwan for giving us this opportunity to think about him and listen to his message. And you are the instrument for us today, through whom Bhagwan shared his important messages for all of us. So grateful to Bhagwan, grateful to you, sir, for sharing your time and giving these gems of wisdom and reassuring us that when the game is being played, when the game is on currently, Swami is in command and he's captaining the team. So with this, let's move to some of the questions which have already started coming on the chat panel. But before I get into specific questions, there's one request which has come, requesting you to share Sai Gita's experience, where Bhagwan said, in the excitement when Swami is coming, Sai Gita urinates in the joy of, receiving the Lord. And that is the time when Bhagwan said, even if one drop of urine falls on us, we will be liberated. I mean, that's a status Sai Gita had in the divine mission. So any experience around that, if you can recollect and share with us.
Yeah, one of the beautiful experiences as a student which we had was to have Sai Gita as a neighbor. And when I was warden of the senior boys hostel, one of the most privileged assignments that Swami gave me, one day he called me into the interview room and he said, see, I'm giving you this the costumes and the jewelry of Sai Gita, which on festival days you would see that she would be adorned with when she is going for various festival procession. He said, you keep it in the hostel. So along with taking care of the students, one of my, proudest privilege was to be responsible for Sai Gita's festival attire and jewelry. And we used to keep it, we used to have a room where we used to keep Swami's things. So in the same room, we kept all that. So just one day before the festival, the Mahut would come and he would take. And why I want to mention about Sai Gita is, in those days, we didn't have mobile phones, we did not have the security G, which would give a siren, and we know that Swami's car is coming. But for us, when we grew up as students, Sai Gita was our alarm piece. If Sai Gita comes out of her shed and stands on the gate, on the road, rest assured that Swami is going to come. And the moment one student would see, he would announce in the room, and then everybody is running out. And especially in my second UG, my room was facing the road. So that was a beautiful experience we had in that particular year. And so it was one of those occasions. And Swami came, and Sai Gita was also there, but Swami didn't stop. He went past us, and then he went up to the Gokulam arch, the Vidyagiri arch. And we were waiting till his car moves out of sight. But to our amazement, he made a U-turn at the Vidyagiri gate. So we were delighted that we were going to get one more darshan. And Swami came back, and now he stopped at Sai Gita, where she was standing. Swami came out, and you should see, it is mother and child. And Sai Gita came up to Swami and with her trunk going towards Swami's cheek and to his hair and all around his body. And in that emotional excitement, I mean, this is how I took it, she started urinating. Because after all, it is an animal's body, and it started urinating, and all of us were actually milling around Swami, very close. The moment she started urinating, it comes like a waterfall on the road tarmac, and it started splashing. So all of us took, very safe steps, 10 steps behind. And I was very, very conscious mentally, I'm telling you, that, that urine should not fall on me, because after all, it is a urine. And when Swami was, in a few seconds, Swami's whole robe was drenched with Sai Gita's urine. And then he looked up and he saw me, and he looked, this is an eye contact which he made with me. And then he said, if you drink even a drop of her urine, you will get a fraction of her devotion. And these are the words which he used. And almost 10, 15 years later, I narrated this episode in Swami's presence in Trai Vrindavan to the students. And the moment I mentioned this statement, what Swami told me, Swami said, "Avunu." After 15 years, he certified once again, yes, it is true. And she is so blessed because when Hislop once asked Swami that, Swami, she must have been some great devotee of yours in the past. And Swami said, no, she's not had any human birth till now. Next life only she will get her human birth, is what Swami had told Hislop. But towards the end, this is what Swami told one of our elders when he was in the car, and then that elder went and told the Mahut who has shared it with me. Swami said, when she passed away, that this is her last life. So Swami changed the destiny of Sai Gita. See, Swami would often describe her, she's a Shuddha Brahmachari. If we want to take an ideal for devotion, Sai Gita was a living example. And that is why for all the students, throughout her life, Swami kept her, as our next door neighbor, so that she continues to be ever an inspiration for all of us. So, and look at it, normally it doesn't happen, that you get liberated with an animal birth. In the whole annals of creation, I think this is the one and only one instance that I come across in any of our Shastras, that an animal with her deep attachment to God has got liberated with an animal birth. And what an inspiration. If with an animal birth she could achieve that, then what are we, with our human birth, which is the pinnacle of God's creation. So that was Sai Gita. And thank you, whoever has asked this question, for the beautiful memory I personally have with Sai Gita, Swami, both of them.
Very nice. I think, a lot of our memories also came alive as you were narrating this episode, because we got that rare chance to be next door neighbor and, enjoy her presence and inspiration from her always. So moving on, connected to this Sai Gita's episode, as you were sharing, one question comes up is, how do we stay connected with Swami always? And if a Sai Gita as an animal could connect and remain connected, and in times when we didn't have mobile phones, she could get a click immediately that Bhagwan has left the mandir and coming on this way, and she was out of her shed. I think, how do we kind of, have that kind of connectivity with Bhagwan in our lives?
See, actually, the truth is that Swami is all the time waiting for us. The question is, are we waiting to connect to him? See, that is the issue. And don't think that it is some very esoteric science or technique or highly evolved you have to be, to be able to do that. at any point of time. See, ideally, what Swami has prescribed for his students, the best time in a day is the early morning hours, the Brahma Muhurtam hours. And see, the mind is very, very calm. It has just got up from bed, and the rest of the duties and responsibilities are not yet there, pressing on us. So at that point of time, any time that we give thinking of the Lord, in whichever way you want to connect. Some people want to do prayer, some people want to do bhajan, some people want to do Vedam, some people want to do Dhyanam, in whichever way. Some people want to do reading of Sai literature, and some people want to, Swami himself has given the Omkar Suprabhatam, and one of the elderly devotees was sharing with me, after that, Suprabhatam and Omkar takes about just 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. And that same thing is there in many spiritual traditions. This is what one of the elderly devotees was sharing with me. So, see, these are not only related to what Swami is saying, because he didn't give us a new path. He has just come and given us a continuity in all the spiritual paths which lead to him. So that is one thing which I would like to, and one thing Swami has said about that, connecting to him in that Brahma Muhurtam time is, he said, whatever prayer and sadhana, etc., you do in that Brahma Muhurtam time, early morning, 3:30 to 6 o'clock in the morning, even if you do it for 15 minutes a day, it's great. Swami says that is like a fixed deposit, and it is exclusively meant for your spiritual growth. And all that prayer and connectivity we do in the rest of the day, he said it is like your savings bank account for your day-to-day problems. Whenever you are in need, I allow you to withdraw. Like you deposit 2 rupees, you withdraw 1 rupee. That all that is for your savings, like savings bank account, and allow you to encash, but not the prayer and connectivity you do during the early morning time. So this is something which I would like to. Then our temperamentally, each one of us is unique. So somebody connects with Swami with bhajan, somebody may do it with satsang, somebody may do it with seva, somebody. So there's no hard and fast rule. But for example, for me, when I was a youngster growing up in school, far away from Prashant, one of the things which connected me very closely to Swami is reading of Sai literature. And the Sanatan Sarthi or the Satyasai Speaks, my father had a subscription, and and I used to participate in a lot of these competitions, elocution, debate, and things like that. And left and right, I would pick up from Swami's discourses. So that was something, again, a big incentive. You have ready source material, and people would be stunned to see the messages that I would convey, and they would come and note down also that was a beautiful message. Can you give us? And they'll take dictation. So that was another. So that has been my way of connecting with him at that point of time. And even today, when I take up reading of Sai literature, I get so easily connected to him. For example, students in our hostel, they had this habit of collecting these photographs of Swami. They'll have their own personal album. One day, it was a Saturday evening, and there was some program going on in the dining hall, and there was a boy who was in a room. I went to meet a teacher, so I just went up to him and said, "What is it you're doing?" He said, "Sir, I'm looking at my album." So I looked up his album, and such beautiful photographs of Swami. For the next half an hour, I was just going through that and totally absorbed. So there are 101 ways of connecting with him. So whatever suits you, whatever you like, what is more important is that it could be just nothing but just thinking of him. I remember when 1985, Swami took us to this Amagunda Palam. I was part of the small team which was pretending to be doing security duty for Swami's vehicle. So we were in a security jeep next to Swami's vehicle, and we accompanied Swami to the Amagunda Palam village. Swami spoke to the villagers, and then Swami said, if you can give 5 minutes to God, 5 minutes to God, you will get energy from that 5 minutes. You'll get energy to last you for the next 55 minutes. This is what Swami advised the villagers there. So, any way in which you feel connected, it could be Samarpan, it could be study circle, it could be Bal Vikas, it could be Seva, it could be meditation, it could be Vedam, it could be whichever way you feel that you are getting connected to him, use that. And he's waiting to connect to you. See, that is the thing. You know, he's already waiting on the line. When is this fellow going to make a call? So the moment you say, oh, and immediately the connection is made. And how will I know that we are connected? In your heart of hearts, you will know that. You don't need somebody to tell you that now you are connected. You don't need a certificate. Your own heart will say, yes. The joy that you experience, the peace that you experience, that itself is the proof that you have got connected.
Very, very beautifully explained. I think Swami is just a thought away. I think that's the fastest connectivity that we can have as compared to 4G, 5G or internet or website or any of the YouTubes. I think he's the closest, as you said. And if you are available, again, I go back to your message. If you are available, then the call is immediate and instant. Very beautiful answer, and lots to again think about. There are many questions still, but since we are past our time, apologies to all those who asked the question and we are not able to take them. We are hoping and we're praying to Swami to bless us with those answers in different ways. And you know, Swami is always with us. He will answer us in a different way. And we'll wait for his responses to come on those. But once again, heartfelt gratitude to you, sir, for giving us your time and sharing those gems of wisdom. Even if we have one or two sayings of these are followed, I think our life will be transformed forever. So special pranams and heartfelt gratitude to our beloved Swami. And thanks to you, sir, as well for this beautiful satsang, the first satsang of the new calendar year. And I'm sure this is not 5 minutes, but this is going to take 12 months of happiness that you're leaving us with. Thank you very much. Would request, yeah, sir, you have to say something before we close. You're speaking on mute.
Yeah, so the first beneficiary is myself. And so I must thank all of you all for giving me this opportunity to reminisce, go back and remind myself all that Swami has said. And first person to practice and implement all that is myself. If incidentally somebody else also benefited from that, that is bonus.
All of us are benefited. So we are going to carry home lots of bag full of Bhagwan's messages today. So very, very grateful to sir. We'll end this session with Samasta Loka. Sai Ram.
Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय। साई राम।